Welcome to Design+Style, a podcast dedicated to helping you attract new leads, own your influence, and develop your inner visibility warrior through our proven tools, techniques, and mindset strategies. I am Dixie Willard, interior designer and owner of Designing Dixie, a brand journalism media outlet. And with me, as always, is my beautiful, effervescent co-host,
Rachel Moriarty, a leading home style expert, best-selling author, speaker, brand ambassador, and product designer for Elegant Mosaics.
Today on the podcast, we have Linda Holt of Linda Holt Creative. Linda launched her interior design business in 2011 after a 25-year career as one of Boston's top commercial headshot photographers. Her past photography clients sought her out not only for her ability to make them look their very best, but for her skill in having their personality shine through the lens. Today, she applies those very same principles to designing rooms that not only look beautiful, but reflect the unique personality of the homeowner and their family. Linda's blog, Focus on Creativity, is where she shares her two passions of photography and interior design. Over the past few years, she has put aside her heavy DSLR cameras and now shoots exclusively with her iPhone. She is currently working on an online photography class geared toward interior designers and creatives to help them get the best photos possible using their iPhone. Linda also recently launched a photo editing service for bloggers, designers, stagers, and realtors.
Linda, we are so excited to finally have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Rachel and Dixie. You guys are rocking it, so I am so honored you asked me to be on today.
I am so happy. I met you for the first time at Design Bloggers.
Yes, actually and 2 years ago, right?
Yes, I was so intimidated to go say hi, because she's like, her crew was like Carla Aston, Linda Holt, Jeffrey, what's Jeffrey's last
Johnson.
name? Jeffrey Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like this total established Design Bloggers crew, and it was like my first one, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Rachel, it's so funny you say that because I was intimidated to meet you.
What?
I was.
Isn't that so crazy?
Yes. Absolutely.
That is really crazy. Oh my gosh. So it's been fun getting to know you over the last couple. I really got to talk to you a lot more on the last one.
Right.
Because I wasn't scared anymore.
Right. And now I know how nice you are, so I wasn't intimidated or scared either.
So let's talk about your experience and how you kind of got started and how long you've been blogging and all that stuff.
All right. Well, I think most of you probably know I was a professional photographer for a very, very long time, 27 years actually.
Wow.
But my sort of secret was I was a closet interior designer. And on weekends, it's all I did was go to fabric stores, and I was always, helping my friends and redoing our own home. And then a lot of things happened, but I decided to leave photography and decided it's now or never. So I went back to school for interior design in my 50s. And then I started my business in 2011 and pretty much started the blog at the same time because I sort of had that, time is ticking, like that, feeling it's now or never. And it took me a long time to get there, but I had I won't get into it, but I had a couple of life-changing experiences that made me realize you have to do what your passion is. I didn't want to be in my 70s saying, I wish I had tried it. So I started off slowly and gradually and still had one foot in photography and one foot in design. And then I'd say I think I closed my studio for good in 2013, and then there was no looking back after that. I was just straight interior design.
I was just sitting here thinking, 2011, that's not that long ago.
I know.
Then I did the math and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No wonder you're so good at this.
Well,
do you I'm assuming you do your own photography for your interiors.
Well, I have to say yes and no to that. So, and I have a very definite opinion about that. I was a commercial headshot photographer, which means if you need a portrait done, I'm your girl. As far as interiors, it is a totally different skill set. So when I'm doing vignettes or behind the scenes or, it's install day, it's all my iPhone. But when it comes to photographing for my portfolio, for prime photos, I hire an architectural photographer
Nice.
because the iPhone can do a lot, but you can't bring in supplemental lighting and hook it up to your iPhone. And a lot of interiors, you need to bring in lighting. So I always hire out. It costs a fortune and it kills me as a professional photographer to pay that. But honestly, it's worth every penny because your photos are everything on your website. They really are.
I'm so glad you just said that. Because there are so many designers who are afraid of getting professional pictures, and because of the cost, because of what, and they think you're a photographer and you get someone who specializes in it to come in and do that.
Exactly. And it is expensive, but you know what? It's part of doing business because, and especially where I am in Boston, it's very expensive to hire an architectural photographer. So don't cut corners. Don't hire, a wedding photographer who thinks they can do it, or your cousin, or hire an architectural photographer. Just bite the bullet, pay the money. I don't know if they charge by half a day or by the image. They're all different, but it is so worth it because good photos will get you the jobs so that you will quickly be able to make all that money back in the next job you get. But if you have a bunch of mediocre photos on your website, it's not going to get you any clients. So you get what you pay for, in my opinion, when it comes to photography.
Do you have any suggestions? I mean, while I've got you here, let me ask.
Sure.
Do you have any suggestions for finding a good architectural photographer?
Well, look to your local design magazines. I use two different architectural photographers. Now I'm pretty much just using one, but they both shoot for Design New England, Boston Design, New England Home Magazine. And there's two reasons why you want to hire somebody that's connected with a magazine. Number one, they have connections. So if they really like your room, I had my room photo in my own home. I hired a photographer who worked for New England Home. He loved the room. He submitted it. He said, "Do you mind if I submit your photos?" And I said, "No, go ahead." It was published in the Boston Globe, my family room. I would never have thought to submit those photos to the Globe, but he had a personal relationship with the style editor, so it was picked up. So, and the other reason is because if they're shooting for the magazines, they're top quality and they're very good at what they do.
But that's an amazing tip.
I had a magazine shoot yesterday, and I'm out of advertising. I was a fashion stylist, and I met my husband on a photo set on the set of a fashion shoot. And so I was surprised. We shot for a magazine yesterday and there was no lighting.
Mostly they do not do lighting.
Yeah. There were some tough situations, but I was like, this is cool.
Right. And that's the other reason why you can't do with an iPhone, even if you could. You would need a tripod because a lot of those exposures, when they're not doing lighting, as you know, which 9 times out of 10 they don't bring in lighting. Very rare circumstances, like in my one-room challenge, and I'll tell you why we had to bring in lighting. But they're doing like 10-second exposures sometimes, and they're doing multiple exposures, and then they're in post-production they're sandwiching over the window exposure over the room exposure, and they're knitting them together to make a beautiful final image. But generally you don't want lighting. Absolutely.
And it's fun to play with, like, okay, let's do a version with some lights on, let's do a version with and warmer, cooler, and all that stuff. So it is interesting when you do work with a professional photographer to see all the different ways they cover one spot.
And right now the style in interiors is to have sort of the outside blasted out. You don't really want to see the outside. You want that feeling of just that white light coming in. And another reason for that is because when they're doing long, multiple second exposures, that's what happens to the outside. It just gets blasted out white. And now it's just kind of a style where people will do that.
Oh, I could geek out on it so much. And I know you can too. So you switched over to interior design. I didn't realize, I thought you were self-taught. So that's great to know that you went back to school.
I did. I went to school, a local community college, and did their 2-year. It wasn't full-time 2 years. They
Uh-huh.
had a core class of, I think it was like, I don't know, maybe 15 classes, and I took them on my own time. I would usually try to take 2 or 3 a semester. I was still working actually as a photographer during this time, and I got, for what it's worth, a certificate of completion. It's not like any fancy school. But what I did was I took classes all over the country with designers that were giving workshops. Like I took a class with Toby Fairley. I took a color class with Maria Killam. I took a business class with Kimberly Selden. So I would take these, 3-4 day intensive workshops to get as much knowledge as I could in a short period of time. And I'm still learning. I always going to seminars, watching seminars. I think I came so late to the game, and I just hungry for learning as much as I can whenever I can.
Well, it's just so fun to geek out on all of those courses.
I know.
I'm weird in that, like, all of the architectural CEUs, those are the that I'm just drinking in. And people are like, why do you care about concrete? And I'm like, oh, but I do.
Right. And also, that's where I've made so many of my connections are through the classes and the courses. And I have built this little community of support and friends, and they're all over the country. And I value that so much.
Do you go to markets? Have I ever seen you at market?
I go only in the spring. So I go every April. This past April, I think, was my 5th year in a row going. But I just always, it's like crazy busy, and there's so many people I don't get to see, and I try to hit the main things. I saw that you guys were doing a visibility, but I think, was it on Tuesday? Was it?
I can't even remember.
I don't remember.
That was our second market, and we were so busy with interviews. We were filming content for the Design Network. I think we had like 3
I think we came home on Tuesday, but everything.
I mean, it was a blur.
It always is.
Yeah.
And I go with actually my 2 best friends from Boston, and it's just nonstop. And I feel like there's so many things I miss. There's so many people. I feel guilty when I come home because I didn't see so many people.
It's a city.
I know. It really is.
It's not like, that's why I love design bloggers, because you're like, you can see everybody, know, but like in High Point, it's a city.
I know. And you do have, I had to shop for clients when I was down there, and I write for a magazine at home. So I had to like think about my trend report and make sure I got those photos for the trend report. So I had a lot, I felt like I was juggling a lot of different balls while I was down there.
It's different headspaces, like trend spotting and shopping are 2 different spaces in your brain, right?
Yes, yes. Exactly.
And then all the walking, and then all the networking, and I mean, it really is. It's so hard for someone when I come home, and I'm like, I'm done.
Right.
Like I really have to hibernate for a couple of days. Plus, I'm introverted, so
me too.
I'm like high energy when I'm there, and I'm drained out a lot. But I am like done. I'm surprised I don't end up in the emergency room.
Right.
We did end up.
I did, but that was completely different.
Oh, wow. And nobody really understands that except for other designers that go to High Point, because my friends can't understand. They think it's just all
like,
fun.
oh, you get to shop?
Yeah, exactly. They think it's this one big party, and it's so exhausting. And it is fun. I'm not saying it's not fun. Like you said, I'm also an introvert. I come home, I feel like every bit of me is drained. I just have to like crash for a couple of days.
Yeah, because you're like literally pushing all this energy out. Where normally I could stay like in my house and be in ideation mode and not talk to anyone and be perfectly happy.
Yeah, I'm just so like you.
I have to turn it on.
Yeah, me too. It's work. It takes work.
It is work. It's so crazy. It's so not easy for us introverts.
Well, and then there's also not only that, but there's also that you have checklists in your brain for every single thing you're doing. So you've got the trend spotting checklist. You've got the shopping checklist.
Shopping project.
Checklist. You've got the education checklist.
Yes.
And just keeping track of that many things is exhausting. You could not talk to another human being and be exhausted from that.
I know. I go down with like almost an hour by hour schedule, like before I get down there, knowing what I need to do. Otherwise, I would just be so overwhelmed. I would forget. I mean, I had to bring measurements for, furniture I was looking for. I had to there was just so many things I was trying to accomplish while I was down there this time.
Oh, so what kind of projects are you working on right now?
Well, right now I have a couple of, I have one whole house, but we're doing it room at a time. They just bought it. It's a new home.
That's my favorite way to work.
Yep, actually. Me too. It takes a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah,
so we've done 2 rooms, and we're about to start on the kitchen, which is my favorite room to do. And then I have a few other clients where I'm doing, individual rooms, family rooms, living rooms, a bedroom. And I do a lot of consults too. So I always have about maybe 1, sometimes 2 consults a week. And I love the consults because I'm really good thinking fast on my feet. I go in, I solve their problem, I leave with my money. I don't have to see them again. It's like, goodbye, have a nice life. This was great. And it's profitable.
I honestly want to bump up my consultation. I
want to start promoting mine more.
Yeah, I just actually put like a pinned thing promoting my consult because I realized I never even promote that.
I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know I want to go in deep and hard and leave and
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're so grateful when you leave.
Yes.
They always say this was the best thing I've ever done. And it makes me feel so good. I mean, there's no follow-up, there's no ordering, there's no tracking. Just
going to the bank and depositing your check.
I know. I know. Exactly. That's all the work. I can even do mine on my phone. I don't even have to go to the bank.
I know, right?
Yep.
So I honestly want to talk to you though about your one-room challenge.
Yes.
Dixie, you didn't participate, but you probably saw her photos.
Mm-hmm.
She did how do you call it, a pied-à-terre?
Pied-à-terre. Yes.
Yes. Tell me about it because that was so ambitious.
It was
ambitious.
It was a lot of work.
And then you had to break it down.
I still think I'm recovering from it. I should have taken like a week off and just stayed in bed because I neglected my clients honestly for almost 6 weeks. And during 3 of those 6 weeks, I was traveling. I went to Dwell and Design in LA. I went to High Point, and I went to the another one. So it was wild. I really had 3 weeks to pull that together. And
okay, question 1. How do you get chosen to be one of the official? You were one of the official bloggers,
yes.
Right?
Well, my situation was different from everybody else's.
Okay.
The way they choose everybody else is they apply, which I didn't even know was a thing. I've done the one-room challenge before as a link up because the people, my understanding, and I could be wrong, the 20 featured designers that they choose are super huge numbers, like millions of blog followers, hundreds of thousands of Instagram. So I never applied because I'm nowhere near in those leagues. But I got a call from the marketing, the public relations firm for the Boston Design Center. They were looking for an active blogger who was a designer in the Boston area. They looked at a whole bunch of blogs and a whole bunch of designers, and they chose me. So they called me up. I was actually at the Design Blogger Conference when I got the call. And they said, would you be interested in working at the Boston Design Center to set up a room of your choice with the help of the Design Center? So I was like, sure, it sounded so easy. It actually was.
It sounds easy, right?
And I don't want to get into the messy details.
No, I can imagine.
Let me just say it was the most challenging thing I have ever done in my life. And I literally was in tears probably at least one day a week. I mean, I'll just tell you that, like, sort of the gist of it was that the PR department and the marketing department got together and decided this would be a great idea, but they never talked to the showrooms, and the showrooms did not think it was a good idea.
Yeah.
They did not want to lend out their furniture. So it was definitely begging for everything. I had a few showrooms that were actually very helpful, but most of them lent reluctantly. Some of them said I could have it, and then at the last minute they said you can't. So it was definitely a challenge. I'm glad I did it. I mean, I know, and again, I hired my friend to take the photos. So there was no lighting in the space at all. There's not even electricity.
It looked like it was because of the, like, it looked like it had these cool, like, huge, lofty windows.
That's the only light on the entire floor. And you didn't see what was behind my one room challenge. It was about 40 feet of warehouse. I was in the back corner of a warehouse space that was on the 5th floor of the building. No electricity in the entire floor. So the only light at all in the whole space was coming through that giant window that you saw in the photos. So there wasn't enough light to even take the
because then it was
photos.
Backlighting
it was all backlighting.
So, yeah.
As much as she tried, she had to bring in lighting.
Yeah.
It was and even for her, she said it was one of the most challenging jobs she had done in a while.
It was huge.
It was huge. The ceilings were 14 feet tall. That window was 13 feet tall.
I'm looking at the pictures right now, and
I know, isn't it?
It turned out so amazing.
And your party looked like you had a reveal party.
Oh, that was so much fun. That really was. It was great.
I saw that it was Andrew Joseph there.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So Andrew is the new PR firm for the Boston Design Center.
Oh, yes. Perfect.
So
I know. I was
the one that contacted me.
New York. I was like, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, but the sad thing is I spent all day Friday, all day yesterday, and I will be there all day tomorrow and all day Thursday. Every single thing has to get cleared out.
That's why
you basically did a show house room.
Yeah, I did. That's exactly what it was. It ended up being a show house. So the furniture, they will hire movers to bring back, but every single accessory in the room I brought in. Carload and carload after carload of boxes, and that's all I've been doing the last 3 days, and 2 more days of it, and then I should be done. And plants and I mean, gosh, it was crazy, but it was. I'm in hindsight now, I am so happy I did it. It just was a little more challenging than I thought it was going to be.
What's going to be interesting just to see what comes out of it.
I know. And
something always comes out of it, like an opportunity that you would have never thought, or a partnership, or some kind of collaboration. So I know that'll be worth it.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see. There's no harm in ever sort of. For me, it was so far out of my comfort zone. When I got the call, my brain was screaming no, and then my mouth said, "Sure, I'd love to." And my brain was going, "No,
what are you doing?
No,
stop talking."
It was very scary to put myself out there so publicly.
Yes.
And I was so worried that, I didn't want to let down the design center. I didn't want to let down Andrew, didn't want to let down the one room challenge, and I didn't want to embarrass myself. So I had a lot of this fear when I said, "Sure, I'd love to." But it was a little bit frightening for me.
Are you a solo firm?
Yes.
You are? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am.
Well, so she has an assistant, but I'm a solo too. That's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, it was. I actually hired help, just manual labor help to help me carry in an assistant during the load in and the load out. But
I mean, we can't do a whole thing by ourselves.
Right.
But I do kind of do the same thing on installs.
Yes.
Wow, Linda, that's great to get the scoop, because from the outside it looked just like, and that's the thing, right? That people don't get. It's like, it looked like an amazing opportunity, an amazing space. You gracefully went through it, like, just like the fancy designer, and then the pictures reveal party with the, Andrew Joseph, and it just looked from the outside so beautiful.
Thank you. And that was my intention. That's what I wanted it to, just like with a client.
Like a duck floating on top of the water, and underneath your life.
Right, exactly. Which is not unlike any other job we do. You don't want your client to know of all the things that go wrong. You just want it to be installed and have her think, "Oh, this must have been easy," when, you were like pulling your hair out.
Tossing and turning. You probably lost a couple of nights sleep. And
Oh, a couple? I don't think I slept the whole time. I was literally like awake at 3:00 with anxiety almost every night. And now that I've done it, if it ever happened again, I've learned so much about the questions I should have asked in the beginning, but I sort of just jumped in, thinking, oh yeah, this will be great. I didn't ask the right questions, but I learned from it.
I think you need to do a course for designers, because
Well,
this was
what
my
you
first.
need to know before you say yes.
Yeah, so it was my first
exactly.
one, just because I was like, oh, maybe, yeah, there's a patio. I need to do my patio.
Oh, that's right. You did it too.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I just did it as a link up, and I was like, it was for me to get I think it's brilliant because it actually got me to not, as DIYers, and my husband and I, we never finish projects. We have so many unfinished projects in our house.
Right. Yeah.
So this was like, oh, I have to publicly finish this thing.
Yes.
And so it made me do it. But talking to other designers, I didn't even think to ask people to donate stuff or talk to brands or anything like that. So I feel like there needs to be someone needs to be like, this is how you approach the one room challenge. This is how you get product. This is how, because somebody even got a paint sprayer.
Oh, you know what? I did it in 2015 in my family room for the same reason you said. We had lived in the house since 2005 and we'd never done the family room. So it was a way to force myself to do it.
Yes.
It never entered my mind that I should reach out. I spent $20,000 between everything. It was basically an empty room. I got all new furniture, drapery, carpet, paint, everything. And I'm like, people actually will give you stuff? It was like, duh, I didn't know.
I didn't know either. I was like, this outdoor, I was thinking, oh, my little patio, it's just a little cover thing. There's no cheap outdoor furniture.
No, there is not. It's not.
Worse than, it's worse than indoor furniture.
Right. Yeah. No, now, again, this would be something, you're right, people should realize that do it as the link up, that companies will give you things.
Yeah. Well, I was like, you got a paint sprayer and paint and I'm like, I need to
people got wallpaper. Someone got flooring. You know how expensive flooring is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I'm definitely going to leverage this next time.
So am I, Rachel.
I'm already this room's getting redone and my daughter's room's getting redone.
Yes. Start reaching out now. I talk to people that are reaching out now for the November or the October one room challenge to sponsors.
Smart. And the other thing is, some things you could start I literally outlined it. I went and I said week 1, week 2, I kind of outlined it in my blog just because not everything happens in a beautiful session, right?
Right, right.
So it was just helped me to formulate the content.
Yes.
And that part was invaluable because I just kind of went in and plugged in at that point.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a great experience.
Yes. And it's all about being organized, like you said, knowing each week what needs to be done. And honestly, for me, it was so by the seat of my pants because I had no control over things that on week 4, I had only had a commitment for a rug and a sofa. That was it. And I 2 weeks ago, and I had no furniture. So that was sort of panic time. And that's when I said, okay, you just have to go in there and make demands and really step up to the plate, because that was at the point where it was I was
no more nice guy.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, tell us a little bit about, and we know you're teasing out the course that you're going to have for designers, and I think it's amazing because I feel like our iPhones are, or any of our phones, Dixie's phone, her camera's amazing. I will say, when I went and visited her and saw the photos, a Samsung? It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So we all have these amazing tools now that we can use. So I love, people ask me all the time how I do everything on my phone. And it's all about the apps.
Right. It really is.
It's not just the picture. It's and what I learned from you was the grid.
Yes.
So I put the grid lines on my phone, and I put the grid lines on my own personal camera as well.
It makes such a difference because then your lines are lined up. They're perpendicular, which is good.
Yes.
But designers have such a different need with their phone than the general public. And mainly it's so you can be, putting things on Instagram and Facebook and going and showing, your daily updates. And designers have great eyes. I think so many of them are absolutely great photographers, but what I have found designers really lack are the technical skills, not so much in taking the picture, but in the editing of the picture. And it's so easy to go in and take a good photo and make it absolutely great. And it's not that designers don't want to do it, they just don't know. And I cringe when I see some of these photos. They're dark, they're poorly lit. I could show them literally in 30 seconds how to make that picture look beautiful and bright and colorful. And again, it's just using a couple of apps to really fix the photo and make it look great. So that's why I decided, and I had so many people were always asking me, how do you do this? How do you do that? Just to make a short course just for designers, especially for those hard lighting situations. I want to photograph the window treatments, but the light from the window is coming in and the drapes look dark, and how there's easy things you can do. So that's why I decided I would do this.
Right at your fingertip, literally.
It's true. It's absolutely
Oh my
true.
gosh. One of the things that people always trip out on that I use an airbrush app for my face all the time. But it has such a great smoothing tool. I use it for my bedding.
Oh, great idea.
I iron instead, because sometimes you can't get everything out with the steamer. I finish off the wrinkles with an airbrush.
Actually, I've done that before as well.
It's I know. So there's it's so funny to take something, you just have to, get in and practice it. So
Right, that's it. It's just practice. And most of the apps are pretty intuitive. I remember the first time which was, I don't know, years ago when I started downloading some of the apps, I was sort of like a little intimidated by them, but it's just practice, and now it's second nature. And now I think, wow, this is so easy now.
I do it for relaxation.
Me too. I do it at night, sitting in front of the TV.
I do the same thing.
I'm like, I've retouched like 200 photos from High Point right now because I'm getting ready to write my first trend report from High Point. And it's just, like you said, it's like meditative almost. Sitting in front of the TV, just doing my little retouching, and
I love it. And it's so muscle memory. Like I can just tune and bright and this and that. And, I mean, it's just exactly like you said. I feel very meditative. My husband and I don't agree on TV shows, but I do like to spend time next to him. And so he'll watch Survivor or whatever, and I'm like totally photo editing.
That's so funny. My husband just watched I don't even remember what the title of the movie was. It just came out, some science fiction movie on Sunday that he rented on Netflix. I sat next to him for 3 hours and touched photos. And now I can't even tell you the name of the movie, but I was with him.
Having a glass of wine and exactly. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. So that's fabulous. I'm looking forward to that. So Linda, tell us, we're going to wrap it up with our favorite question, which is, why does visibility matter for, designers, small businesses?
Well, I think visibility is it all. It's everything. If people don't know who you are or see you, they're not going to call you. They're not going to think about you when it comes time. And it's a lot of work to stay visible. And for people like myself, who's an introvert, I'm always pushing myself, to be visible, to do the postings, to stay on social media, to go to events, to network. I think without visibility, you're going to sit home and wait for the phone to ring, it will never ring.
You're sleeping on the job.
Exactly. I mean,
it's like a machine you have to keep feeding.
It is. And it really is. It's in this business, it's everything, because clients get to know you from social media. They're not going to networking events generally where you're going to be, but they may be on your Facebook page or your Instagram, and they get to know you that way. And if you're not visible, they're not going to find you or see you.
Yeah, and opportunities like your one-room challenge, like you got you had a PR company and a design center reach out to you. Brands, I mean, all of that. So you just said it so perfectly. Thank you so much for taking the time. We know you have to break down design center still.
Think of me, loading up. I brought in over 120 books. There was so many book styling, and I have to lug all those books home. But
now I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to really look at it now that I know the behind the scenes. I'm going to give it some
completely different mentally.
Yes. Yes.
But this was so much fun. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome. Bye.
Sometimes when it comes to visibility, it's hard to know where to start, how to start, what's truly important. Maybe you've already started, but instead of getting anywhere, you just feel lost and confused. Maybe you see others making great strides, but it seems like you're getting left behind. Or maybe your once successful visibility efforts just aren't getting you the attention they used to, thanks to new technology and an ever-changing industry. It's time for a change. It's time to take control, to stand up for yourself and your business. It's time to become a visibility warrior. Join us today at visibilitywarrior.com.